yet a new platform for this webcast. We are broadcasting simultaneously on YouTube, as well as on Facebook at rudymaxsworld.com. It's a new technology, so if something goes wrong, please forgive me because I am not very techie, but Tommy Danielson, my producer, is, and he is masterminding this from his home in California. I am in my home in St. Paul, Minnesota. My guest today is Paul Theroux, is at his home on the North Beach in Hawaii, on the main island. And I'll bring him into this in just a moment. But first, let me tell you, if you're watching this on YouTube after the live event, we're recording this today on, what is the date today? What is the date today? I'm terrible on dates. On the 29th of May, 2021. But Paul Theroux is a timeless guest, so you will be as charmed as as you would be tuning in live. If you're tuning in live, congratulations! Thanks for making it here. I hope this is going out live. Let me tell you a little about Paul. One day in 1972, Paul Theroux decided to take a train ride, leaving his family in London. He decided to take a train ride from London to Japan and then back to London. Paul, I know this about him because I've known him for a long time, is an inveterate note taker. And on all those various trains, he wrote down comments he heard from people, when things he saw, what happened. And that became his first huge best-selling book called The Great Railway Bazaar. Now on Saturday, this Saturday, the 23rd, is today? No, the 29th. On Saturday, May 1st, 2021, Apple Plus will debut the first of 7 episodes built around another best-selling book of his called The Mosquito Coast, a novel. You may find that title familiar. That's because in 1986, there was a movie starring Harrison Ford called The Mosquito Coast. Perhaps you saw it or heard about it. You're going to find the Apple TV series, and we're going to play the trailer for you shortly, a bit different than the book and from the Harrison Ford movie, but it has the same iconoclast as the main character who drags his family out of their comfortable lives. The novel is very powerful. I just finished reading it flying back from London on Sunday, and I was thrilled again. I'm surprised at how different the Apple TV series is, at least from looking at the trailer, and we're going to ask Paul about that in just a moment. Let me first give you a very brief synopsis of Paul's travel history. After college, he was born in Boston. After college, he joined the Peace Corps in Malawi, and then became a university instructor in Uganda. Now, on his 60th birthday, Paul, I believe, is now 80. On his 60th birthday, he decided to visit Africa again and see what happened to those places that he used to know so well as a young man. That book resulted in a book called Dark Star Safari. And by the time he reached Malawi on that trip, he writes that he has been, and here I quote, abused, terrified, stranded, harassed, cheated, bitten, flooded, insulted, exhausted, robbed, lied to, browbeaten, poisoned, stuck up, and starved. No wonder he loves Africa. No wonder. And he does love Africa. We'll talk to him about that as well. His most recent travel books include a couple of years driving through Mexico, which became a book called On the Plain of Snakes. I interviewed him about that for the radio show. And then he took some leisurely drives over maybe more than a year's time in the southern part of the United States. That book is called Deep South. Other books he's built around train trips include Ghost Train to the Eastern Star, The Last Train to Zona Verde, The Old Patagonian Express, the Riding the Iron Rooster. And just to make the rest of us who have occasionally written a book feel really insecure and insignificant, Paul is also a novelist. One of my favorites is My Secret History that was published in 1996. I'd highly recommend it to you. I think some of it might be biographical about Paul, and I identified with a large part of it, even though I had not had the adventures Paul has had. We reached Paul today at his winter home on Hawaii's North Shore, as I mentioned. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rudy. Lovely to see you. Aloha from Oahu.
Oh, I'm so jealous. It's still winter, sort of, here in St. Paul. There's some green on the trees. I should mention that not only we're going to talk to Paul about the Mosquito Coast because of this Apple TV production coming up, he also has a new novel that just came out a few weeks ago called Under the Wave at Waimea, which obviously is informed by his living on the North Shore in Hawaii. So we'll get to that as well. And one very interesting thing I should tell you is that the main character in the Apple Plus TV series starting Saturday is his nephew, Justin Theroux, who you know is quite a famous actor. Tell you a little story about him later, too, which I've told Paul that is amusing. At any rate, Paul, welcome to the show. Thank you for getting up in the morning to do this. The first thing that struck me, of course, after just reading your book afresh again, and then seeing the trailer on YouTube or somewhere for the Apple TV series, is how different the plot is. And I know you're executive producer on this, so you've been involved in this. How did this evolve? Did you think they were going to come and do a replica of the book, or it's obviously
you can't? The book has been filmed. It was filmed by Peter Weir, starring Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. Can you hear me? Okay, by the way.
I can hear you just fine. Yes.
Okay, great. So the novel was filmed in 86, 87.
86.
86. There you go. And so when I sold it to Apple, they hired a team of writers. The showrunner, the main guy, is Neil Cross. Neil Cross wrote a series called Luther. Actually, a number of seasons of Luther.
Series.
A cop show. Really, really good. I mean, and he's written a couple of novels, and he's read most of my work. He's a great guy. He's a terrific writer, and he adapted it. He updated it. He kept the spirit of the book, and he gave it a new life in the present. So it doesn't start in Massachusetts and go to Honduras like the book, and the film. It starts in Stockton, California, and then goes to Mexico. And Ali Fox, the main character, is pursued by the government. There's a plot involving the government trying to nail him. And so he flees to Mexico. But he was going to go anyway. He wants to get his family away. He's not happy with the way things are going. So his attitude, his beliefs, and a lot of his speeches are the same as in the book. But the motivation for leaving is he's being pursued, but he's also fleeing to set up again in Mexico. And his invention is the ice machine, as in the book. I think it's a great job. The acting is great. Apple has put a lot of, you'll see, I mean, maybe you saw in the trailer and the first episodes, a lot of money shots in this thing. I mean, terrific settings, and the pace of it is very strong. It's very, very watchable. So I'm happy with it. And as a producer, I could have stopped them at any time. Or I only said, I encouraged them. I said, yeah, go for it, because it's a different thing. It's a movie is not a book. A series is not a book. It's something else. It's something else. It's something else.
It's got to be a cliffhanger after each hour, et cetera. Right.
Yeah.
Did you have any influence in them hiring your nephew Justin?
Good question. No, that would be nepotism, wouldn't it? The word.
Oh, wouldn't want that in Hollywood.
Do you know where the word nepotism comes from?
I do not.
It's Italiano. La parola nipote, the word nipote, means nephew. Nephew. So nepotism is hiring your nephew. It was in the Renaissance when popes had illegitimate children. And I hope this doesn't offend any of you. But if they're historically minded, they'll know that popes sometimes had children by various women. And the Pope would appoint his nephew. He would say, "This is my nephew. I want him to be a cardinal." So they say, "Mi nipote. I want him to be a cardinal." So that's where nepotism comes from. The Pope nominating his nephew.
I didn't know popes ever had children. My goodness, that's
you didn't know. You did not know that. You did not
know that. No. I'm not a Catholic. I don't know if that accounts for that, but
anyway, well, Justin heard that it was going to be made. Mm-hmm. He spoke to his agent. He said, "I'll find out something about it," and so he auditioned for it, just the way anyone else. I mean, I suppose maybe Laurence Olivier auditioned for it, and maybe, I don't know, Anthony Hopkins auditioned for it, but Justin got the gig. So and I was happy about that, because we've had a lot of conversations about it. I mean, he got into the role, and there's a lot of family history in the book too. I mean, members of my family they're quoted in my book. It was derived a lot from my family and from my reading and all of that. So
I hope your father was not like the character Justin played. I mean, that guy was a cranky guy.
my father was not cranky, but my father was very inventive, and my father also challenged us. My father would say, sometimes, I remember walking down the beach with my father when I was a little kid, and I was barefoot, and we were walking the beach on Cape Cod, and a woman passed us. My father used to tell this story, and I was chasing after my father. My father's striding along the beach, and the woman said, "Put the shoes on the baby. Put the shoes on the baby." Because I was barefoot. My father said, "Barefoot, that's the way to do it." And this one insisted, Italian woman, "Put the shoes on the baby." And my father was holding my shoes. Anyway, my father also would say, "Go sit on that rock and till the tide comes in. And if you do, I'll give you a quarter." That kind of stuff.
That's in the book.
That's sort of thing. But he also made things. He was handy, and he was also frugal. He had been through the Depression, so he never bought anything. He objected to so much Japanese merchandise and so much junk, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of attitude. But I'll tell you who else is in it. Jim Jones was an inspiration. Jim Jones of Jonestown, big inspiration. He took all those people from California, went to Jonestown. I mean, he was sort of idealistic in some way, but also a demon, a tyrant, and they could him. Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon prophet of the Mormon religion, was a genius, a man, inspirational, one of the most charismatic people you can imagine. And he led his people. He was going west. He was murdered by federal agents in Missouri, but. Or maybe it was Illinois. Anyway, he was shot on his way to Salt Lake City, to Utah, to the territory. So Jim Jones, Joseph Smith, Huckleberry Finn's father, Pap. Pap says in Huckleberry Finn, "I'd like to leave this country. I want to get out of here." Pap. Pap's an old drunk, but he doesn't think that African Americans should have equal rights. So all those things fed in, and also the times. You remember the late 70s, the high interest rates and the Arab oil embargo and all that. That fed into it. But now we're living in a kind of echo of that time. So it's a very appropriate. I mean, in terms of the theme and the mood and the times, we're living in a very kind of parallel time.
Well, you also see it in the book, and I'm sure we'll see it in Justin Theroux's portrayal. You sort of see the degeneration of the dad, the main character. He gets a little crazier as he gets out there, and the ending is quite shocking, at least in the book. I haven't seen the. Can I tell my Justin Theroux story, which I told you when I asked you to be on the show?
Yeah, but may I just say one thing about the book? When I read the book, I laugh. I mean, I don't know whether you read it recently. I don't know whether you find it funny, but I find this. I find the situation very comical. I mean, dark. It's dark. It's dark.
Yeah.
But did you laugh at any place? Because the guy's so obsessed.
It's dark, but it gets it. But you dial the darkness up slowly. He's just sort of a guy who likes to tinker on a farm somewhere in New England, but he doesn't like the way the direction America's going and all the cheap stuff that China's making. He doesn't want to buy anything from Japan or China and he just wants to get out of the country. But when he goes, where did he Honduras?
He goes to Honduras, Honduras.
And he wants to find a place where there's nobody around and no civilization and create his own little Valhalla. And because he's so handy, as your dad was apparently, in making things, and of course the big thing he makes is a machine that creates ice, which the natives have never seen. And the ice thing, that ice machine it's the size of a building, and it's fabulous. I hope, and as you say, it's in the series too. So I didn't laugh a lot. No.
Well, no. What he says these people in New York City. They're so desperate. They're eating pet food. The average doctor can't do 10 push-ups, and that kind of thing. I don't know.
Well, that's true. That was amusing. That's true.
Well, okay. Anyway, tell your. So, what's your Justin story?
Well, my Justin story is you have a brother named Peter.
Yeah. He
was a lawyer in Washington, D.C.
Oh no, that's Eugene. That's Eugene.
Sorry. Okay, Eugene. Sorry, I never met Eugene when I lived in Washington, D.C., but I worked side by side at the Washington Post for many years with his former wife, his ex-wife, Phyllis Theroux, is also a writer.
Yeah.
And she had a son named Justin, who was in high school, maybe 10th, 11th grade at the time. And one night she said, and she and I were close, and she said, one night, would you, come over to the house? Justin, he's having trouble in school. He's not focusing. And could you come over for dinner? And then maybe while I do the dishes, you could take Justin in the living room and give him a man-to-man talk about it. He's got to study, And so I said, sure. So I went over, we had dinner, and I said, Justin, you're never going to make anything yourself if you don't get good grades in high school. You're not going to college. It's all going to go to hell. Of course, Justin's going, yes, Mr. Max, how long I got to listen to this stuff right now? So now flash forward years later, and I walk by People magazine, and there's a picture of Justin getting $10 million for this picture and $20 million for this picture. And he's married at the time to Jennifer Aniston. And I remember looking at the cover and going, I guess that talk I had with him really worked,
Yeah, it worked. It worked.
I'm sure he doesn't remember it, but I just got so amused by that here I was telling him how to get successful, and he could.
Well, he went sideways. I mean, he didn't go a conventional route. He went to Bennington. Before then, he was at a school called Buxton. He was kind of experimental schools. He was someone with a lot of ability, but not in a conventional. I mean, he's not going to sit down and read Moby Dick, and report on it. He might act out. He'd be in a student production of Moby Dick. But he lived with me for a while, and he had a lot of ideas. He said, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking of going to Taiwan. He studied Chinese. He could speak Chinese, may still be able to speak Chinese. I might go to Taiwan, or I was thinking of making a career as a graffiti artist, or I might be an actor. He was actually living with me, and his issue was, he said, I'm trying to give up smoking. So I said, well, first give up smoking, and you got to replace it with something. Use my rowing machine. I got a rowing machine. It was during the winter, actually. And I said, as for graffiti, yeah, that's a good option. Why don't you graffiti my boat? I had a kayak, white kayak. So I said, graffiti it. Do something. So he did that, actually. I said, we needed money. That's right. I said, I'll pay you. I'll pay you to graffiti it. Then he had some money. And I said, follow your, do what you want to do. If it's China or graffiti or acting, just do it. And then he went to New York, and then he went to LA and made a lot of friends. He's got a tremendous ability to make friends and groove with them. And they made some. Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of his pals, and a couple of other very talented people, and the rest is history. But he started off. I mean, I don't even know whether he went to acting school. He might have gone to acting school. But even as a very little kid, he was a quick study. I remember one summer he came and he had a shell suit on, a kind of suit. He was breakdancing. But I mean, seriously, breakdancing all over the place. And I thought, where the hell did, my kids had been studying, doing Latin and Greek at an English private school. And they came and said, do you want to hear us decline some supine and the ablative absolute? And Justin would say, no, but want to see me break dance. Anyway, so
I've got to think, Paul. I've got to think that if in the living room of your former sister-in-law, Phyllis, if Justin had said, "Well, Mr. Max, I'm really thinking about acting," you think I would have encouraged him? I would have gone, no, forget acting, Justin. It's never going to work. It'll never work. It's crazy. People go out there, they wait tables the rest of their lives. You have a very talented son who I worked with at Spy Magazine, Louis Theroux, who does great documentaries, has just an amazing mind. He was an intern when I was at Spy. Yeah, you got some good genes there. The family.
Did you give him advice, because he's a millionaire too?
No, I didn't give any advice. Is why he's a success. But
he's kind of.
So in the movie, does Justin age? Does he become an older man? Or what age is he in the movie?
He's a father of teenagers, so he's probably 50 in the movie. Yeah, he stays that age. He says that. See, the advantage of a series is that you can do a whole book. You can do a complete narrative. You're not compressing anything. You can have every part of a book, every chapter of a book. And so when it's elaborated, if you were going to do a Henry James novel, for example, the ideal thing would be an Apple TV series, not a movie, not a movie like. I'm trying to think of Moby Dick would be a great TV series.
Sure.
Room with a View is, these Merchant Ivory films of Henry James, E.M. Forster. They'd be better off as a series. So there's a lot of elbow room with a series. Justin doesn't age much in it. He just gets weirder. So, but it's a great cast. It's not just him, I mean, Melissa George is in it. The kids are great in it. Everyone's really good, and the the production values are really wonderful. You've seen what, 2 episodes? Did you say?
I haven't seen any episodes. I only saw the trailer. That's all I could see. It doesn't come out Saturday. So
yeah, okay. I thought maybe anyway. You're in for a great surprise. It moves very fast. There's a lot of tension. There's tension in the book. It's more to do with what the father's going to do. Here, there's a lot of external aspects to it. I love movies and I love books. Movies get people to read books. And I also think that the best movies are not literal adaptations of a book, but they're elaborations of a book's idea. And they can't be the book. You read the book. I think, when I wrote that book, I loved writing it. It took me 2 years. I was in London, and it was a wonderful experience. I remember every day I sat down, I was writing, and thinking, what next? Now what? Now what? And people talk about writer's block or ain't it hard. I didn't have a job. I wasn't a creative writing teacher. I didn't get a Genius grant. I just was sitting there, and to make money, I wrote pieces. And so in the middle of writing the book, I took an assignment. I went to China, and I went down the Yangtze River, in the middle of the Mosquito Coast. But I was sort of writing it in my head then. But so all my life I've been a professional writer with no other support systems. But that book was such a thrill to write. It was such a pleasure to write, a joy to write, that it's in my mind as really one of the great experiences, one of the most pleasant writing experiences I've had. I really enjoyed it.
Is it being reissued? Is it being reissued in connection with the Apple TV series?
Yeah, it is. It's got a new cover, and I don't know. Yeah, it's sold umpteen copies. I mean, million copies. So it's it's never a question of doing publicity to sell the book. The book, people who see the series will, I hope, read the book. They'll find something different in the book. But I mean, so if you saw Mickey Rooney in Huckleberry Finn, and then read Huckleberry Finn, you'd say, well, where's Mickey? You'd say it's not the same thing at all. No one has really made the real Huck Finn movie, because Huckleberry Finn is a very dark book, actually. But so then there's a new discovery to be made.
Let's talk about your new novel, Under the Waimea. You live up from the beach because you've always warned me never to buy a house on the water because you never know what's going to happen. So you're up above, as I recall, on the North Shore, across a road up above. But are you on the surfing beach? I don't remember.
I'm not on it. I mean, there's the great surfing beaches are down below. They're down the hill from it. So I'm on a hill now,
right.
And I can see the Pacific from where I am. But if you go down the hill, if you turn left, you get to Waimea Bay, which is the Waimea wave sometimes gets 40, 45, 50 feet high. I mean, it's been known to be a giant wave. There's a break there called Pinballs. Little to the right is another break called Rubber Duckies. Further down, Sunset, Bonsai Pipeline, Off the Wall, log cabins. And then there's the outside breaks. So every piece of water here, if I go, has, if you say to someone, you meet someone and say, where do you live? They say, I live at Pipeline, or I live at Sunset. They don't say I live 5 miles away. So the water is a destination. It's a place. And Waimea has always been iconic for me because it's a bay. You've traveled. Have you been to Moorea in Polynesia?
I have. Yeah.
Well, do you remember a bay called Cook's Bay? Cook's Bay is all right. Well, Cook's Bay is when I saw it, I loved it. I thought I could live here. Then I got to the North Shore of Hawaii, of Oahu, and I saw Waimea Bay, and I thought this is just like Cook's Bay because it's a beautiful bay with arms, volcanic arms, very deep, and then behind it a valley, a deep green, a valley of where traditionally Hawaiians lived for 1,000 years or more. So I was struck by that. I thought, you get to places, you've had this experience as a traveler, and you think, I could live here,
Sure.
or I want to live here, or I'm not moving, I'm not going home. This is my new home. So I felt that when I got here, and that was more than 30 years ago. I'm still here. So.
And did you surf? Are you a surfer?
I could surf. I paddle an outrigger canoe, a single man OC1, and I can surf a bump. I could surf a bumpy wave. With a kayak, I could surf a slightly bigger wave. Maybe not head high, but a couple of feet. Not a serious wave. I can't. Okay. I only glide down the face of the wave. But the guys I paddle with, 3 Hawaiian guys, to surf a wave with an outrigger, you call it flying the armor. Armor is the outrigger. You tilt it sideways and you go down the wave. Wow. I'm too old for that. I've never done it. But I've been paddling since I brought my first kayak probably in the 83, 84, something like that. So I've been paddling all those years. And from I paddled all over the Pacific with a kayak in the happy hours of Oceania.
That's a title of your book, Happy Hours of Oceania. Okay, let people know that.
So I haven't, but I've been watching surfers the whole time I've lived here. One of the things that I do, which I don't know whether many writers do it, but I do it, is I write at the beach. Usually in the afternoon, on a warm afternoon. I hate being at my desk. I'm sure you can relate to this. And I put a folding chair in a quiet part of the beach. I sit and I write on a clipboard. There's nothing in front of me but the sea. There's no one around me. I usually have earphones on.
You write everything in longhand all the time?
Yeah. I always have. All the time. And sometimes I make 2 drafts. So, you mentioned the Great Railway Bazaar. That was all. I came back with 4 very fat notebooks and typed it from that. Under the Wave at my Maya, the new book, I could show you the manuscript. It's about 600 pages, all written. And sometimes I rewrite a page, but it works for me. I mean, first I need to write slowly. My impulse is to scribble fast, or to type fast. But you don't want to do that. If you're writing a novel, you need to do it deliberately. Particularly, you're describing a face. You're describing weather. What does it look like? You can't type that fast. You need to kind of carve it out on the page. Like what sort of a head, what sort of hair, what sort of sunlight, what does the cloud look like? And that's a very slow process to make the reader see what you're seeing. And typing doesn't, I don't know.
I feel like I'm taking a master class in writing. And just on the other side of this laptop that I'm talking to you on, I'm right on the Mississippi River. And as soon as the weather gets warm, I'll take a chair out there on the Mississippi River. I have lovely, all grass and plants and so on. It's very pretty. And see if the muse finally hits me. Because I've wanted to write a novel, but I can get the character up the tree, but can't get it down. But that's interesting. Writing all in longhand, Paul. Jeez. Who types it up for you?
I do. I mean, I've never had a secretary. I type it. So I used to actually. I used to type it, then correct it, and then I used to give a typescript to a typist, and then have her do it. But I do it myself. With a word processor, it's a piece of cake. The difficult. I had a typewriter before. A typewriter is an exhausting thing. People watching this may not remember what a typewriter is. Maybe you've never seen a typewriter, but a typewriter, you go bang, bang, bang. And I used to have, my shoulders used to be killing me at the end of the day. I'd be smoking a pipe or smoking a cigarette. And at the end of the day, I'd smoked a lot, typed a lot. I'd be exhausted. It was like, I'd have a kind of hangover the next day from typing. So I don't do that, but it's all, I'll tell you, here's a writing tip. Okay, kids out there.
Use it. Go ahead.
You're not happy with the thing you wrote. You wrote a short story and you're not happy. And you think, I could improve this. I know you can improve it. Here's how you improve it. You sit down and you copy the entire story out in longhand. And I guarantee you, if you do that, it will be better. You'll do it more slowly. You'll see how fatuous some of the things you wrote are. and you'll improve it all the way along. You write it out in longhand and then type that. Often when I tell people, that's my writing advice to all classes, which I don't teach, but if I did teach, that's what I'd say.
You have a couple honorary doctorates. Thank you, Dr. Theroux. Thank you.
That's okay, but sometimes people say, and have said to me, because friends of my wife or people I know, write it out in longhand. Oh, that's a lot of trouble. And I think, you're not a writer. You will never be a writer. If you think writing in longhand is trouble, you're not a writer. It will never happen. Do something else. Become a pharmacist. Direct traffic. Take, I don't know, become driver training instructor. You're not a writer. Because writing is a very slow, very difficult process. And Under the Wave at Waimea took me 8 years. I started 8 years ago as the novel. And in between, several things happened. I wrote another book. And then the president of the United States disparaged Mexicans. And I thought, well, I'm going to put the novel aside and I'm going to go to Mexico and I'll write a book about Mexico. It became On the Plain of Snakes. It was quite a production because I had to buy a car and then I had to drive up and down the border. Then I drove into Mexico making notes. Then I came back and wrote it. When I finished that, then I resumed Under the Wave at Waimea novel. But it profited by it because in Mexico, as you know, Mexico is full of surf breaks, full of surfers. So Todos Santos in Baja, great breaks there. The Oaxaca coast, excellent breaks all along the Pacific coast. So although I was writing about Mexico, I was meeting surfers and looking at waves, looking at the sea. So that became a way of financing the book, of reflecting on the novel. A novel can't be written quickly. I mean, you can't rush it. I don't know of any. It hasn't happened. Great novels are not written quickly. They're written deliberately. And this book took a while because it's in 3 distinct parts. The first part, the man has a problem. The second part is the history of how did this man become a great surfer. And the third part is solving the problem. And so each of them, at each time I finished a part, I thought, well, I'll do something else. I'll put it aside and think about what's going to happen next.
Well, let's talk about
it worked out.
You talked about age and that you don't really surf much anymore because you're older. The hero in this book I haven't read it, as I told you, just came out, and I was reading Mosquito Coast, but the hero is in his 60s. He used to be a famous surfer. He's dealing with his mortality and his age and the meaning of life, I guess, from what I gather, reading a couple of the reviews. Is there a lot of you in there?
Sure, there's a lot of... I'm aging. I hate saying when I say I'm 80, I gulp, 80? God, I remember my father was 80. But I still paddle. I was paddling yesterday on my outrigger with guys. I mean, to stay in shape, to stay healthy. And, every day you spend on the water is not deducted from your life.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you get out on the Mississippi and that day is not deducted.
Great.
As far as the autobiographical elements, it's full of autobiographical elements. First, it's about aging. It's about fame. You know how writers, well, in any enterprise, people say, there's this hot new guy, this hot new IT guy, skiing. Hey, there's this great skiing. You're a great skier, or you were a great skier. And you see some hot dog going up and down the slopes, and you think, that was me once. Or writing, people say, hey, there's this great hot new book. Have you read it? And I think, I just published a book, right? So did people say to Ernest Hemingway, hey, there's this hot new writer, Norman Mailer. Hey, there's this guy Mailer. He's in New York. He's a great writer. Ernest, have you read him? Well, Ernest Hemingway would say, what are you talking about? I'm working on what? I mean, can you imagine people saying to anyone, any older writer, hey, there's this new punk. So Joe Sharkey,
Can I interrupt you right there?
Sure.
The main character is named Joe Sharkey. Do you know the travel writer Joe Sharkey, who lives in New Mexico, I believe? No, Arizona.
But
you know him?
Used to live in New York. Yeah, of course I know.
Oh, okay. I wondered if you knew.
No.
Okay.
No, I thought it's great. I wrote a book called Dr. Slaughter. It's about a hooker. It's called She's a doctor, Dr. Slaughter. I knew him. I want Randy Slaughter. Great woman, a friend of mine. I thought, you have a wonderful name. Can I use it? She said, yeah, go ahead. So there's no copyright on names, I don't think. And it's not libelous. Joe Sharkey, the travel writer, is not, they're not going to say, were you a surfer, Joe? So, but he's the shark. He's the shark. It's just
I love that.
It's an irresistible name. But you're talking about autobiography. So Sharkey in the book goes to Tahiti, he goes to South Africa, he goes to Portugal, he surfs in Indonesia. I've been all those places. All the places that Lamu, he goes to Lamu in Kenya. I was in Lamu way back, probably 66, 67. I was in Lamu on the Kenya coast. He goes there. So I can put in all my travel memories. I was bullied at school. He's bullied at school. So there's that. I mean, the satisfying part of writing is, I guess, using memory, expressing yourself, living the book. I mean, putting your own experience in authentic experience. It's the lived experience that I put it in. I'm not a famous surfer, but we all have a wave in our life, and we're all kind of on a wave. Divorce is a wave. Unemployment is a wave. Debt is a wave. Trouble is a wave. And you kind of, writing a book is a wave. You've got to kind of find a way to get down the face of this wave. So life is full of these obstacles that we learn how to surf through. So there's that too. And I could relate a lot to that. Anyway, so that's the essence of the book. May I say also, because we were talking about movies earlier, later today or tomorrow, a production company called Stone Village Films, they made Love in the Time of Cholera. They made the Philip Roth novel, The Human Stain. They made Richard Russo's Empire into great films or series. They bought the rights to Under the Wave at Waimea, so it's going to be either a film or a TV series. But I just sold it the other day. So the thing about writing, not so much.
Congratulations.
Even travel. Thank you. Miracles happen. Miracles happen. When you write a book, I'd say it, but it's got to be a real book. But all my life, that's the story of my life. I've been very lucky in that respect. That I started off writing. People said, "Well, what are you going to write about? Who's going to read your book? What are you going to do?" Like actors, like who's going to hire you? And you think, well, I think good things will happen. And I think I'm going to try it. I'll go for it. What the hell? Like I told Justin, go for it. Find try it. See if it works. And
that's what I told Justin too. We have a lot of questions, Paul. Can I slide one in? Can I slide a question in?
Sure.
Does Mr. Theroux have an opinion about the conditions in India with COVID or in Africa? You're very familiar with India, with Africa.
I always felt with India, if there was a pandemic, cholera, I don't know, sleeping sickness, dengue, whatever it is, or some kind of vector-borne virus, that India would suffer, and China too. You've been to India, so people live very close together, and it's things spread very quickly. So it's very, very unfortunate. India also has a lot of doctors, and they produce medicine. So my view is that India, I think, will get through it. Africa is poor. They don't have a lot of doctors. They don't make medicine there. And they're likely to have a serious problem there. It'll be difficult for Africans to travel and for us to go to Africa or India for that matter. So it's a crisis. The crisis in the United States and Europe will be eased. The crisis in India and Africa and Brazil, and perhaps China, is more doubtful. So you wish them the best, but it's very tough business.
In my introduction, I described your trip for a Dark Star Safari. I used all those. You were abused, terrified, stranded, harassed, cheated, exhausted, robbed, lied to, browbeaten. But you love Africa, don't you?
Yes, I do, because that was the first place I went. And in 1963, I was a teacher at a little school in Nyasaland, which became Malawi, and that was my first experience of the real world. Not Venice or I don't know, Puerto Rico, where I had been, but the real thing of everyone was barefoot. There were no cars. People rode bicycles. There were animals, snakes and monkeys and everything around. And the country became independent. Nyasaland became Malawi, and people were very hopeful. My students were hopeful. They thought they were going to be part of the process. It's very exciting, actually, to be in a country that's becomes independent. Kenya became independent. Uganda became independent. Northern Rhodesia became Zambia. So you're there, and people think, take the Union Jack down the flagpole and put up the new flag. Then we had a dictator, and he just stayed in power for about 35 years. And Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda, who deported me 2 years after I was there. I was involved in a plot to assassinate him. I didn't actually know that they were going to assassinate. I thought they were just going to get rid of him, but I thought getting rid of him was knock him off. So they sent me away, and then I went to Uganda, and they were hopeful there for quite a while till Idi Amin took over, and then the country changed. But my love for Africa is undiminished. I still won't feel hopeful. But when I saw the other day Wayne LaPierre and his wife shooting an elephant in Botswana, I mean, how hard is it to shoot an elephant? It's footage that's just been released. You think, good God, this bozo. And by the way, Wayne is a very bad shot. He may be the head of the NRA, but he's a bad shot. When you see an elephant, someone actually shooting an elephant, and this majestic animal falling down, you think, what's the world coming to? So there are those people that need to be curbed. And Africa deserves better government. And they deserve better, I don't know. Everyone's trying to fix Africa. Bill Gates is trying to fix Africa. Bill Clinton's trying to fix Africa. Name a billionaire, and they think burnish up their reputation. Why doesn't Gates just pay his workers more money? And why does he make stuff in China? Why does he make stuff in Alabama? And why not fix Mississippi? Fix the Delta. Fix Arkansas. Why are they trying to fix Kenya? But fixing Africa is an old colonial trope. And it ends up in Heart of Darkness, so it's terrible. But I still think I wasn't trying to fix Africa. Africa fixed me. I felt I was doing nothing. I didn't really improve anyone's life, I don't think. I might have taught them English. A lot of my students left, actually. They came to the States. But I was changed. I was transformed, actually. I became a traveler. I had something to write about. I became the person I always wanted to be. I mean, the person I didn't realize that was inside me. In Africa, that person became vital, real, and became strong too. And so I had a life that I would not have had if I had stayed home. So,
how did you fall in love with India?
Beg your pardon, did you say that happened in India?
How did you fall in love with India? I know you.
India's hard to love. Well, the trouble, India doesn't love you back. That's the trouble. and the other thing is, well, you're never alone in India. 1.4 billion people. You're never alone. But I'm fascinated by Indian history, Indian art, Indian people. But the trouble with India is that it's so divided. It's divided by language. It's divided by caste. It's divided by region, by gender. I mean, women have a hard time in India getting jobs. So why are there so many Indian doctors in the States or in England? They leave. They can't. But as far as loving it, I admire it, actually. But it's hard to love. It's hard to love. But I remember we were in India together, you and I. Mm-hmm. Back then, it was 2001. Remember we were in Simla together, mm-hmm. and that's so I was in India having a great time and with you and a bunch of people, and we were traveling around, and I don't know whether you thought that was difficult. I thought it was heaven. And then I got in a plane
early, except the 2 days in Shimla where I had to get a shot to get out of bed because I ate something bad. But other than that,
that'll happen. But I left there and I flew from Delhi to Jordan to Cairo, and then set off south from Cairo on this actually 4-month trek that was really difficult, really difficult. And I thought, God, I wish I was in India now having a. Well, I've always
had a theory that half of all Americans can't wait to go to India, and half of all Americans could not stand the thought of going to America. And I know the poverty is bad there. And in fact, I remember asking you in India while we were traveling, I I said, what do you tell people? So I'm not going to go to India. There are all those poor people, and they're all squatting out in the field doing their morning bathroom rituals, indoor plumbing, et cetera. And I remember what you said to me. You said to comment on poverty in India is to say nothing really at all.
Yeah. It's like saying, isn't the sea's blue, the sky's blue.
It could be warm in Southern California.
You're making a judgment of no value. I mean, it's the most obvious thing. It's commenting on the obvious, and also you're kind of missing something, because you're missing. Sometimes you see a poor family, but you miss the relationship between the people. You miss the fact that the mother has a baby that she's nursing, and she looks contented and doesn't have any money. Obviously, they're very poor, but you see love. Or you might see one of the children carrying another child, being, because sometimes children are co-opted into looking after the other children. And you see the father, pushing his bicycle with stuff on it. I mean, you miss, if you just see poor people, you miss the subtleties of it. You miss the human aspect of it. And
I remember seeing, a lot of places where no plumbing, no indoor plumbing, no electricity, and the floors were hard packed dirt, but they were swept every day and they were immaculate.
Yeah. There are rituals that are observed. It's a culture that takes a lot of looking at. I mean, there isn't a lot of personal freedom. If you are your caste, so an Indian that goes to Mississippi to run a motel, and many do, or Georgia, or many do, is not confined by his caste. He can do anything he wants. He can apply for a government loan. He can buy another motel. He can fix it up. He can hire people. And so he doesn't have to, he's not regulated by caste. In India, you're regulated by your castes. Rudy, I've just looked at my battery. My battery's it's not going to run down now, but I don't have a lot of time. Are we going to?
We're wrapping it up. Yeah, I asked you for 45 minutes. You've already given me 46. So
okay, no, all right, because I don't want to be just
let me repeat for folks who are watching live on the 29th of May 2021 that on Saturday, in 2 days, begins the first of 7 parts on Apple Plus, a dramatization of Mosquito Coast, Paul Theroux's book, starring his nephew Justin Theroux. I'm sure if you're watching this later on YouTube, you can still find. Because they keep these things up for you. His latest novel just came out a couple of weeks ago is Under the Wave at Waimea, the reflections of an aging surfer and the meaning of life, etc. Oh, can we run let's see if Tommy, can you run the trailer for the Mosquito Coast real fast?
Everything's complicated, but there's always a solution.
Gotta go. Oh, hey. How was work?
It was good. What are you reading? Oh.
So you figured out where you're gonna apply yet?
Don't know. Josh and I are still talking about it.
So that's still the plan? Follow Josh to school?
You and Mom were teenage sweethearts. And don't say you had a bond.
Margot!
You want me to say we had a bond?
Yes, I do.
We had a bond!
Everything's complicated, but there's always a solution.
Seen that card before. From the bank.
These people aren't from the bank. Hang on. Right now, we need to go. They found us. We're gonna get somewhere safe. So long, America. Have a nice day.
What did he do?
I'm sorry. Pack one bag, be ready in 10 minutes.
How much trouble are you actually in?
Enough?
Not everything can be fixed.
Of course it can. The trick is actually wanting to fix it.
None of us likes this situation. Unless we do the right thing here, it will escalate.
What's about to happen might seem like imperfect parenting. This is going to be an adventure.
A bunch of fugitives are heading south to Mexico.
I had plans. Go to school, get a life. I can't just hide out with you guys forever.
What are you doing?
It's difficult to explain.
I'm interested in you, if you are who I believe you to be.
I don't think we feel very comfortable having this conversation.
Why are you doing this to him?
Why is he doing this to you?
Tina.
Where are you guys headed?
Well, there you go, Paul.
There you are.
I'm exhausted.
I know. No, it's good. It's cool. It's cool. It's very watchable. True to the spirit of the book, and that's only the first series, so first season. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
Wait, oh, there could be a second season?
Oh,
could
yeah.
be?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations. Well done, Paul.
Listen,
Thank you.
you're talking to a producer. I'm a producer. Hey, forget about it. I'm a producer.
Sweetheart.
So,
I want a character named after me, my girlfriend, whatever,
I'll tell you something. Rudy Maxa has always seemed to me a wonderful name, and a very, very usable name. And
you're welcome to it. Now, when I went to Washington Post, everybody said anyone with an X in their last name, it's a really good name, a memorable name.
That's true.
Paul,
it's great to talk to you.
Nice talking to you, Paul Theroux. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor, and I wish you the best. And have a big party Saturday night with all your friends on the North Shore on Oahu.
Thank you very much.
Rudy, say hi to Sheila, and say hi to Miss Sheila for me, please.
Okay, I'll do that. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye. I don't know how to tell you to exit, Paul. It's the first time I've used this platform, but there must be some. Oh, leave studio. There you go. All right. So thank you for watching. I think we actually technologically got through this better than I did on the last two platforms. We're going to stay on this because I think it's nice that it broadcasts in real time live on YouTube and Facebook. I thank you for joining us. You can register. I think there's something around there that was on the screen to tell you how to register. We will let you know. We do this every 2 weeks, Thursday at about the same time, noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Delighted to have you join us. You can watch past episodes. I've had all kinds of people on by going to YouTube. Meanwhile, travel safely. Oh, by the way, so one of the questions was, can I go to Europe now that I've had my 2 vaccines and just show them my vaccine card? No, nobody wanted to see my vaccine card, by the way, going to England last week or 2 weeks ago. I had to take a test 72 hours before. I had to take 2 tests while I was in England. I had to take a test to come back to the United States. Your vaccine card is not yet a magic passport to anywhere, at least as we broadcast now in May of 2021. Other shows, I'll try to answer a few travel questions, but I wanted to get that one out there right now because I know a lot of people are excited about the fact that, or the assertion that Europe is going to open soon to Americans. I hope it's absolutely right, but this is an ever-changing thing, as we know. Anyway, take care. See you in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about the guy who found the buried treasure by a guy who filled a treasure chest with gold, silver, and buried it somewhere. And for years, people looked for it. I think a couple of people died searching for it in out west. This is the book that's going to tell you who found it, how he or she found it. I haven't read the book yet. They're sending it to me. It doesn't come out for a couple of weeks, but that's next week. So stick around, or stick around at least for next week. And lovely having you on YouTube and Facebook now. Take care. Bye-bye.